Good evening. The North Clackamas Budget Committee meeting will now come to order on Tuesday, May 13th at 6:32 p.m. First, we will all rise for the flag salute.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, Mitzi Bauer will read the native land acknowledgement.
Thank you. We acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we call the North Clackamas School District. It rests on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Malala, and Clackamas. We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn, work, and be a community on this land. And we offer thanks to the original caregivers of this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families, both past and present, and that will affect those in the future, and honor the resilience and revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Thank you. Our first item of business is to review the notes from the April 29th, 2025 Budget Committee informational meeting. We can take a moment, and if there are any additions or notes on that.
I have a question. When we're asking questions, because I think there was questions about safety and it says that there's no questions, is it just because it's part of the discussion and it wasn't like a specific question that we had a response that we had to come back to, and it's just part of the discussion and so it's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think,
just to
yeah.
make sure. Thank you.
If there are no other comments on the notes, then we can move into the business of the meeting. This is the first formal meeting of the Budget Committee for this year after the 3 informational meetings. And the first order of business for this formal meeting is to elect a chair for the Budget Committee. So we now need to determine who the chair for the Budget Committee will be for this year. Please raise your hand if you would like to make a nomination. That is correct. Before we move on to that, there is, speaking of questions from the previous meeting, there were some questions from the last informational meeting. Thank you for your questions regarding dyslexia training and the curriculum adoption cycle. In response, we wanted to bring back the following. In regards to dyslexia training, North Clackamas conducted an internal review and can attest to the following. North Clackamas has met and continues to meet all requirements under Division 22. All schools continue to meet requirements for dyslexia training. Implementation of strategies and supports is consistent with state expectations. Most North Clackamas schools have more than one dyslexia-trained teacher. District-provided training embeds foundational skills and strategies aligned with dyslexia best practices, and 11 central office staff members are dyslexia-trained and support data-based meetings to review screening data and assist teachers. There is also a question in regards to the curriculum adoption cycle for English language arts. The adoption year is 2027, and the implementation in classrooms is planned for the fall of 2028. There was also one question regarding how many students have taken one or more international baccalaureate or advanced placement classes this semester. We have 462 students taking IB at Rex Putnam and 1,322 students taking advanced placement at our other high schools, for a total of 1,784 students participating this semester. And my thanks to Yvonne Dibley, Petra Callan, and everyone else that pulled the information together. Now, having read that, now we can move on to determining the Budget Committee Chair for this year. Please raise your hand if you have a nomination.
I nominate Ankur Doshi for Budget Chair.
Nominations don't need to be seconded, but are there any other nominations? No? We have a nomination to elect Ankur Doshi as chair for this year's Budget Committee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations. Ankur Doshi has been elected chair. We can now take a moment. You should have a copy of the script. Congratulations. I will now turn the meeting over to you. The script begins at presiding officer will chair the rest of the meeting.
Okay. We will now need to determine who will vice chair the budget committee for this year. Please raise your hand if you'd like to make a nomination. Missy? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we have a nomination to elect Nicole Woodville for the position of vice chair for this year's budget committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, Nicole has been elected vice chair.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. At this point in the meeting, we have the opportunity to take a 5-minute pause if the presiding officer wishes to be able to go through the script, or we can continue to move forward with the agenda at the,
Does anyone need a break or want a break? I'm good to move ahead if you'd like to move ahead. Okay. All right, at this time, Matt Makara will review the budget guiding principles and the district equity policy. Matt,
Thank you.
turn it over to you.
In your packet, everyone should have a copy of the district equity policy and also a copy of the district budget guiding principles. These are included here as reference for all members. I can say that in regards to the guiding principles, they are what drive the decisions that we make, and it's the lens at which we consider budget changes.
Any questions on the guiding principles or the district equity policy? Seeing none, we will move on to the budget message. Superintendent Shay James will now present the budget message. Superintendent?
All right, thank you. So I just want to start out by saying thank you for your dedication and your time and volunteering with us and being on this budget committee. We appreciate the long hours that you have given to our students and our staff and our school district. And thank you for lending your expertise, and we're grateful for the partnership. So want to start there and say thank you for your oversight. Each year, the superintendent's budget message is read, and you will find that under the organizational section of your notebook in case you want to follow along. The budget message is an executive summary and an overview of our projected budget and outlook. The North Clackamas School District budget process is guided by our strategic plan, core values, and equity lens, as you heard Matt mention. And our guiding principles and strategic plan are found on page 6 in the budget notebook if you'd like to review those as well. So with that, I'm going to read the budget message into record. And if you've never had this experience, I will just say sit back and relax. It takes a second as I do read it verbatim. And I just want to thank you in advance for your patience on this. Dear North Clackamas community, I am pleased to present to our community a budget for the 2025-26 school year that builds on the progress we have made in support of the North Clackamas mission of inspiring graduates who are empowered to act with courage in life and to strengthen local and global communities. We find ourselves in a time of great uncertainty. At the federal level, recent changes in policy towards public education have introduced concern around previous stable federal support. Any loss of federal funding could necessitate cuts to programming and staffing. It could also jeopardize NCSD's status under the Community Eligibility Provision, CEP, which has allowed us to offer free breakfast and lunch to all students whose schools serve breakfast and lunch. At the state level, even optimistic funding scenarios fall short of quality education model requirements. We simultaneously face substantial and unavoidable increases in PERS, unfunded state mandates, and the continued rise in the cost of essential goods and services. We are concerned as we observe neighboring school districts report sizable cuts to staff and services. We are fortunate that through careful planning and fiscal management, we have positioned ourselves to avoid similar cuts to this point. We are not immune to the stresses that challenge our peers. The trends we see are not sustainable over time, so we must remain cautious in our planning and vigilant in protecting our resources to avoid a similar future for ourselves. Within this context, I present a budget for the 2025-2026 that allows us to maintain our current service levels. Investment in instruction. Our commitment remains strong in ensuring every student in our district achieves their full potential. We are actively working to provide the necessary support at all levels, from school-wide expectations that create a positive learning environment from everyone to more focused assistance for students who need it. This includes dedicated coaching for our teachers, extra support from paraeducators, and programs to help all students thrive, including those learning English. By working together and focusing on individual needs, we can build a strong foundation for success for each and every one of our students. This focus is yielding positive results in several key areas. Literacy. We've seen increased proficiency in reading skills with significant gains in oral reading fluency for second and fourth graders, and a notable number of students moving to, at, or above grade level in reading. Teachers also highlight students' empowerment by setting, tracking, and achieving their own reading goals. Ninth grade success. Our ninth grade on track teams are making a difference, supporting students through a critical transition period and helping them to stay on track for graduation. College and career readiness. We're seeing more students feeling prepared for college and career, as indicated by Youth True survey results. Additionally, AP and IB enrollment have increased. Career Technical Education, CTE. Our CTE programs are strong with concentrators graduating at an impressive rate. Math. We've seen positive outcomes in math with increased percentages of students meeting benchmarks in elementary and middle school, and more students taking advanced math courses in high school. Special education. For the first time in 20 years, NCSD has met the ODE target for students with disabilities placements in general education classrooms. These achievements demonstrate the positive impact of our dedicated efforts and investments in supporting the diverse needs of all of our learners. The 2025-26 budget outlook. This budget is based on the assumption that the district enrollment will continue to increase modestly over the current school year. These modest gains have seen us become the 5th largest district in the state. This stands in contrast to enrollment trends elsewhere, which have seen enrollment fall across the state and in many of our neighboring districts. In a larger context, however, our enrollment has still not yet returned to levels seen before the pandemic. The budget for 2025-26 is based on $11.36 billion in state K-12 funding, and also incorporates the following assumptions. As with many of our peers, the most significant budgetary pressure heading us into the next biennium is the unprecedented increase in PERS expenses. In our case, we anticipate a possible general fund increase of approximately $13 million annually, from $15.6 million to $28.7 million. Salary increases for each employee group as well as step increases for all groups. An increase of 5.0 FTE, 1.5 licensed FTE, 2.5 classified FTE, and 1.0 administrative FTE for programmatic needs closest to classrooms and students. Continued investments of $750,000 for safety-related classroom enhancements for all staff and students. Investment in immediate maintenance needs, including roof repairs and improvements to heat/ventilation systems at multiple school sites to support safer and conducive learning environments. Fund balances, revenue, and expenditures. The 2025-26 general fund ending fund balance is projected at $51.2 million, 14.2% of total general fund reserves. A projected $244 million in total state school fund support. This represents NCSD's share of the total statewide K-12 school fund of the $11.36 billion. The 2025-26 projected local option levy revenue is $25.1 million. Total 2025-26 general fund revenue is projected at $359.6 million. This comprises approximately $282.1 million in local and state revenue, of which $25.1 million is in local option revenue. $74.5 million from beginning fund balance and $3 million in fees, grants, interest, and other sources. Total 2025-26 general fund expenditures are projected at $308.3 million, excluding fund balance. In addition to the general fund budget, we are preparing budgets for student investment accounts at approximately $15.7 million and high school success at $3.7 million, which are both small decreases from the current year. Local option levy. North Clackamas remains grateful for the support shown by our community in renewing the local option levy in November 2023. The 5-year renewal of the levy passed with 73% support and received a majority of support in every voting precinct in the district. While we are humbled by this level of support, we are also mindful of the level of trust our community has shown in CSD. Since its original approval by voters in 2018, it has served as a fundamental support in pursuing our ongoing mission, supporting approximately 180 teaching positions, maintaining class sizes, and preserving program. In the 2025-26 school year, the levy continues to support roughly 1 in 5 teaching positions in the district. Supporting the facilities that supports our students. In 2016, our community approved a capital construction bond measure, which supported a successful construction program that was transformational for our district. This bond supported new construction and the renovation of existing facilities. Every school benefited from this program. In the process, NCSD met all of our commitments on time and under budget. Almost 10 years later, we must consider how to build upon the success of our last program by supporting our facilities into the future. We are actively conducting community conversations and public forums to seek feedback and help shape objectives for a future bond. This budget includes refinancing a portion of our debt to help prepare for a future capital construction bond. This action will not only reduce our debt, but also save our taxpayers money and help increase what we can accomplish in a future bond. 2024-25 year in review. Financially, we are projected to end the year with a general fund ending fund balance of $74.5 million, or 20.7% of total resources. This year, we invested in our school systems while navigating changing teaching and learning conditions, improvements in staff recruitment and some retention challenges, facility needs, and increased costs in operational resources such as gas, electricity, etc. Examples of these investments include the purchase of the Wichita Center for Family and Community Facility and further investment to modernize it. This preserved a vital resource for our community at a time when its future was uncertain. Adoption of a new math curriculum. Critical maintenance where needed most, including roof repairs and improvements to heating/ventilation systems at multiple school sites. Network infrastructure and enhanced cybersecurity. Safety-related classroom enhancements for staff and students. Additional staff training and professional development. Our district also saw $16.5 million invested through this Student Investment Account, SIA, during the 2024-25 school year. Those investments funded counselors, social workers, health and wellness specialists, special education teachers, nurses services, community outreach facilitators, additional contracted mental health services, staff professional development, class size reduction, early literacy materials, and support for elementary teachers at Title I schools. Looking to the future, we currently maintain financial stability. We have made critical investments in our staff and facilities while growing our financial resiliency. While we value being able to bring forward a budget that maintains current service levels, we must not assume a similarly stable future. The challenges facing our neighbors also affect us. The cost of goods and services continue to escalate. Enrollment has not fully recovered to pre-pandemic levels, and there is uncertainty about the level of financial support from both state and federal levels. We must acknowledge that the difficult choices our neighbors face today may be the same ones we face tomorrow. We must find a balance between meeting immediate needs and positioning ourselves to continue maintaining current levels of support in the future, despite the many challenges that K-12 schools face. To do this, we must implement financial systems and practices that build long-term financial resiliency. We must also ensure that we meet our district's mission of preparing graduates who are inspired and empowered while providing a desirable workplace for recruiting and retaining Oregon's best public employees. Together, we have risen to meet the many challenges we have faced over these last few years. We will meet current challenges by emphasizing the many threads that bind our community together: equity, relationships, integrity, empowerment, and care. We commit to centering our students at the heart of all of our efforts while also striving to innovate and improve our practices. We will continue to nurture partnerships across our community to ensure that all of our students succeed, because we are strongest when we walk forward together. With your continued support, we are confident that we will meet today's challenges while continuing to chart a path towards unparalleled educational attainment and fulfillment of our shared vision. Respectfully submitted, Dr. Shea James, Superintendent.
Thank you, Superintendent. Are there any questions on the budget message? Seeing none, Matt Macara will now give a budget presentation, and I'll turn it over to you, Matt.
Thank you. So in the before I get into the presentation, there are a couple of people who I would like to express my gratitude for their role in the budget process and the budget committee process. First of all, I'd like to thank our superintendent, Dr. James, both for my admiration in reading that entire message at once, but more importantly for your leadership. These, as we all know, these are challenging times, and speaking as both a member of the district staff and a member of the North Clackamas community, there's no one I would rather have leading us. I'd also like to thank again Donna Collingwood, who stepped up into providing support for the budget committee this year. I cannot thank you enough for all the work that you've done for the budget committee. It's made the process so much easier. I'd also like to express my appreciation for our Chief of Human Resources and Finance, Michelle Riddell. She has stepped into that role this year, overseeing finance and a whole new level of support and involvement in the budget process. As you can see, there is a tremendous amount of information that goes in this, a lot of information that needs to be conveyed and understood and communicated. And from my perspective, I'm very grateful for everything she has done. I also want to express my appreciation for our Director of Fiscal Operations, Donna Burke. As you can see from the size of the budget document you have in front of you, in the course of our meeting, we tend to look at the budget information at a very high level, but the budget is really just the sum of thousands and thousands of pieces of data. And Donna does an incredible job of entering, combining, coalescing, and understanding all of that. I am in awe of that. And then I also want to express my appreciation for the accounting team that has helped in preparing the budget document. Ivan Aguilar, Sarah Bailey, and Casey Schroeder. Speaking of the document that you have in front of you, just for everyone to understand the contents involved in it, we have the introductory section with the budget message, other supporting information, the financial section. As you can see, that contains the really detailed information of all of our funds. Our general fund, which we'll be discussing in detail, our special revenue fund, which has a lot of our grants and other special revenue. Our debt service fund, capital projects funds, enterprise funds, internal service, and trust and agency. Oh, I should also mention, if anyone has any questions on any part of this as we go through, please, by all means, I'd be happy to try and answer whatever questions anyone may have. So, in discussing the budget for 25-26, I wanted to first, before we get into the details, provide some high-level information that will really help us understand exactly what is the detail behind this. And as I was going through, looking through all the areas, getting all of the variances and understanding everything, it really struck me where the changes were, particularly in compared to previous years. So for the general fund, our budget for 25-26 represents a $31.8 million increase over the current year's budget outside of contingency. And of that, 26.7 million is in personnel costs, 9.7 of that in salaries and 17 million in benefits. As you can see, that represents 84% of the increase in expenses. In addition to that, we have included an additional $3 million for substitutes. This shows up in purchase services. When we get to the purchase services, you'll see it's a little under 3 million. There are some offsetting things that reduce that total. But when you look at those combined, the combined increase for personnel costs and the additional added expense for substitutes, you can see that just for staffing needs, that represents 90% of the increase in our year-over-year budget. There are other things that are included in the budget, but the real story of this year's budget is that it is a budget that maintains our current service levels, but that the cost of providing those services continues to increase and increases faster at a rate faster than it has before, primarily from salaries, but more so on the benefits side. Yeah.
Just had one question on the, that increase. It's due to leave, and we had a new leave bill, but also we have professional development too, and that's something I think we forget about that needs to be paid for. You need subs for that.
Yeah,
So
there are.
they both probably increased? Is that?
Yes. The increase that we are seeing for sub costs is primarily driven by the fact that we are able to fill subs at a greater rate than we have been in previous years. There's also a greater need, but we've also been doing a better job of filling that even greater need. So the increase there is primarily driven by that additional usage, that additional activity.
Not like during COVID when you had staff here even covering, that was really tough. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Just a quick question, because I started looking at the general fund resources when you started mentioning the 26 million increase. You have listed here under 5,400 for beginning fund balance as one of the areas, and it probably has the largest increase I've seen because it goes from 0 to 54 million. I wasn't sure what that line item was for.
Which page are you looking at?
I am on general fund resources under general. And it's 5,000 other sources, 5,400 beginning fund balance. There's nothing under 2020 22-23 and 23-24 actuals,
Oh,
and then
well,
24-25 adopted is at 58 million.
that is, as far as the book, well, a couple things. First of all, the changes that that I'm presenting here are on the expense side of things.
Okay.
In the book, I'm seeing what you're looking at, those columns, that is the way it's listed in the book is primarily a function of those first three columns being actuals as opposed to that 24-25 number being a budgeted amount. So that I understand what you're looking at there. In terms of any variances that we're seeing, that is not something that will factor in. We're looking at the budget to budget changes. I hope that helps. So we will be looking at the changes in budget from the current year budget to the budget for 25-26. We'll be looking at that both by object and by function. By object, you can see this is the level at which we also appropriate our budget when we get to the adopted budget. So as you can see, salaries is an increase of almost $9.7 million. That includes COLAs and steps for all labor groups. The COLAs are 5% for licensed, 4.75% for classified, and 4.0 for administrators. That also includes an additional 5 FTE, 1.5 licensed, 2.5 classified, and 1.0 administrative. As well as on the associated payroll costs. Also, that's what you'd think of as benefits. The budgeted cost increases there are $3.5 million for medical insurance and almost $13 million for PERS. On the PERS, in regards to PERS specifically, there has been legislation that has passed through the Oregon legislature that will result in a lowering of our PERS rate by approximately 1.68%, although we don't have final rates yet. So the final rates we will not have received those from the PERS board until almost the end of this month. So we won't be able to include the new rates in the budget process. Kind of early estimates make it appear that the savings to us may be so that instead of a $13 million increase, we have a $12 million increase or an $11.5 million increase. It's anything helps. I'm very grateful for that rate relief. But again, that even if it were on the more optimistic side and it was 11.5, the increase was only 11.5 million, that is still an $11.5 million increase, which is well beyond anything that we have seen previously. The other thing that I will point out is that the changes that we are seeing in salaries and benefits in total, you can also see that the additional FTE, we've only added 5 FTE. So in practical terms, given the size of our staff, all of this increases is really a like for like increase. It represents the increase of the additional costs that we will have for existing staff outside of a very tiny percentage for that additional 5 FTE. Moving to purchase services, as I mentioned before, the total amount is a little less than $3 million. It does include a $3 million increase for sub costs, to your question earlier, Mitzi. which is partially offset by some net decreases elsewhere. On supplies and materials, that is the net result of some changes. Some of the things that we have here are included increases for dispatch software, communication devices, as well as computer hardware and software. I will point out, though, that many of those additional costs are one-time or short-term in nature, so those generally do not represent ongoing costs. In terms of capital outlay in the general fund, there's no change from the current year. In other objects, the 600 objects, the increase of 588,000 there is primarily a result of increases to insurance expense. That is another area where we're continuing to see pretty substantial increases in a like-for-like service. In terms of transfers, we have the same transfers in place for 25-26 as the current year, outside of a decrease. In the current year, we included a one-time increase so that we could pay off the note to the district office, which we have done this year. The district now fully owns this building, so we had an ongoing transfer. By paying that off, I believe we saved about by paying that off early, I believe we saved about $30,000 in interest. So that's something an expense that we won't be bearing into the future.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do we, and this is my ignorance, do we get choice on our insurance, medical and insurance, and then property and liability? Do we get to choose as a district who we go through, or is that decided for us at a state level?
We do have some discretion in who we choose, although I can say from experience, for most of our insurance, we use PACE, who is a provider that provides insurance to much of the state, and they have been a fantastic partner and provider to the district.
And that's the same for our medical insurance choice, that we get to choose that, but we choose who's been.
Yeah, I should say the insurance expense here is specific to property and liability. Medical insurance, we have a couple different providers there. We have our own self-funded HMA plan as well as Kaiser. And we do have choice in who we utilize for those services. I will mention this is the budget committee. We also have a benefits committee that I facilitate that comprises members of the board and then representatives from each of our labor groups, where we talk about in some detail changes to our benefit offerings, including our choices on medical.
Thank you. I know our costs are going up everywhere. I just wasn't sure if we got to choose at all.
Yes, yes. And that is something that we do look at very carefully. And I will say the increase in insurance, the medical insurance, is pretty substantial compared to past years. Although I will say that in the end, the ultimate renewal rates that we are looking at are in the end what we had planned for. I was apprehensive that we may end up seeing renewal rates that were higher than that. They turned out not to be that, but again, kind of similar to PERS, it's still, if you look past the good news of it not being worse, it's still pretty substantial. And then the last here is other uses of funds or contingency. That is an increase of almost 5.6 million. That is a budget over budget change. In the end, we ultimately expect that the fund balance that we end 25-26 will be less than what we start the year with. I should mention here, this is kind of an accounting thing. When you budget ending fund balance, you budget it as contingency. At the end of the year, you realize it is ending fund balance. Okay. Oh, by now we look at the changes by function, and you can see here we really get into the very specific functions of the district. And again, like going through this, as I was going through function by function, we provide a description here for any variance where the variance is plus or minus $100,000. And when I was looking through those functions, time after time after time, as you can see here, the changes are primarily from increases in employee salary and benefit costs, very heavily weighted towards benefit costs, as we saw. There are a couple of areas where there are changes that kind of fall outside of that trend. In 2190, student support services, over the course of the current year, some positions have been moved, providing very similar service, but kind of have been classified under and moved to different functions. That is responsible for that change. In 2230, assessment and testing, similar there. Over the course of the year, there were some non-personnel costs that have been moved between different functions. In 2320, we have an increase in computer software and hardware expense. Part of that, I will say, is an increase, but part of that also, I will call your attention to 2660 technology services. There is a decrease there. So part of the increase that we're seeing in 2320 is new expense, but then also a portion of that is moving some expenses from one function to another. In student transportation services, the increase there is primarily in those personnel costs, but there was also some new dispatch software that's included in there. And then if we go down to staff services, 2640, that is where we see the increase in contracted services for substitutes. I'm looking back through here, and I think that really represents outside of where we are seeing changes, really primarily driven by changes in salary and benefit costs. I think that does address those. If there are any questions on this before I move on, I'd be happy to try and answer. Tori.
Remind me again, Office of the Principal salary expense versus elementary, middle, and high school salary expenses that are broken out.
Pardon?
Office of the Principal, it says it's salary expenses. How is that different than middle, high school, and elementary program salary expenses?
Which function are you looking at?
Office of the Principal Services,
Oh,
2410.
The changes there are primarily driven by salary and benefit changes.
Right, that was my question. How are they not captured in elementary, middle, and high school program salary expenses?
Yeah, I can get some information on that exactly what falls under the different functions, but there's
So the 2410 is a support function. So the admin assistants up there are supported under 2410. All of the elementary, middle, and high, those are instruction functions.
As I mentioned, Donna knows all. Yes. All right, if there are no further questions on function, I'll move along. Here, so some notes on other funds and what is included there. And this first slide is all from our special revenue fund. Title I, the budget for that is 4.2 million, IDEA 3.4 million, and the revenue from the federal revenue for nutrition is about 4.8 million. I point that out. We are preparing a budget under the assumption that we will continue to receive federal funding. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to proceed with it. But as we have mentioned previously, we are keeping a very close eye on any changes at the federal level and prepared to take whatever action we need to, depending on what may happen there. I present this here just to kind of be able to put into context and put into some detail what we're talking about when we're talking about federal funding. There are some other federal funds in there about in smaller grants, I think about roughly 900,000 total or so. But that is to put that into context. On the state grants, and again, there are more that fall under here. The two most significant are the student investment account, where we have 15.7 million, and high school success, 3.7. I will mention that both of those are small decreases from the current year. And then other things that are included in the special revenue fund are student body funds of 9.6 million, and our benefits reserve, I should have in parentheses here, PERS, PERS reserve fund we have in our special revenue fund. We have, that will be $10 million.
I just had a question about the small decrease in the state grants, because there were several bills down there where they were carving out, or, the businesses were, several were not wanting to contribute, but that hasn't happened. What is that decrease due to?
Those are the numbers that that the state has provided us. I can try and get a little more information on the state side, what may have caused those changes.
Possibly just the economy right now with the taxes, and I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
But not as a result of any of the bills yet. But
Yeah,
there are some down there that they were trying to carve out.
Yeah, that is correct. That is, that's ultimately where the state landed with those.
Matt, I have a question.
Yeah.
At the budget meeting on April 15th, you said the understanding was that there would be roughly $8.5 million in federal funding in total. This represents 12.4. So what's the difference between?
That's a great question. The 8.5 is, represents Department of Education funding. And that is roughly, if you looked at the Title I IDEA and about the combined smaller grants, that's about 8.5 million. The nutrition grants are actually a Department of Agriculture. And I believe that was in the previous meeting, we had it broken out by Department of Education and Department of Agriculture.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So moving on to our other funds, in the debt service fund, the biggest activity there is, as mentioned, we are including the planned refinancing of our 2017 A bond. We are proceeding with that. The market conditions continue to lean towards that being viable, although like many things, it's a little closer than I would find comfortable, but it's still looking promising. And then also in terms of our debt service fund, we've removed the expenses for the note on the district office. In terms of capital projects fund, planning on a continuation of the work done to improve our Wichita facility as well as other maintenance and other facilities. And then also in the 25-26 budget year, we'll see the very final work done related to the previous bond in 2017. So that will be, there are some very, very small components and projects that still remain to be done there. In other funds, the Community Service Fund, the changes that we see there are primarily driven by changes in personnel cost. Internal Service Fund, there are no significant changes from the current year. And in our Trust and Agency Fund as well, the changes that we're seeing there are the result of expected payroll increases. If there are, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone may have on other funds. No? Okay, well, thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions or field any comments that members of the Budget Committee may have. All right. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to the presiding officer.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any other questions for Matt? Hearing none, we'll now move on to public comment. Community comments are an opportunity for our community to share their ideas and opinions with the Budget Committee. Input is welcome and valued. It is our duty to keep it safe and respectful for everyone, students, staff, and our community. This is not a time for discussion or debate. Any individual desiring to speak will have indicated their desire prior to this meeting. At this time, there are no community members signed up to provide comments today.
One thing I will mention to the chair, it's not specifically outlined in the script, but if you could open the floor to public comment, that is one of the functions to meet the requirements under.
Okay. Well, at this time, I'll open the floor to any public comments that are available. If anyone would like to speak on the matter. Anyone? No? Seeing none, we will move on. Are there any additional comments or questions from the committee? Yes.
I just really want to thank you for that great report and all the work that your staff has done, but your leadership too in getting us through these really difficult times. Planning started back, not the year before and the year, but your leadership in both of you and your staff for getting us through all of this, and also going out to the community and presenting this to our community too is so important. And I can't say enough I'm so grateful that I'm living in this district and our students are being really properly taken care of. Thank you so much.
Yeah, ditto that. And I also kind of apologize to you guys. There's probably a little bit for your team's survivor guilt. I mean, when every time you hear the news, you have to have friends and family in other districts, and you hear the numbers, and it's like, oh, I mean, it'd be to not have a job, it would be awful. So thanks to planning, and hang in there and have your teams too.
Then I'd echo those sentiments, Matt and Superintendent. Your stewardship of this organization has been amazing, especially with a lot of the things that have been going on with budgets, especially in school districts over the past 2 or 3 years. Are there any other additional comments? Hearing none, Matt, I have that you would make closing remarks at this time.
I just wanted to, again, echo the appreciation that Dr. James expressed for all the members of the Budget Committee. Time is a precious resource for all of us, and we appreciate that you have chosen to dedicate that in volunteering. This is the next meeting we have will be on May 27th. That will be a much shorter meeting where the Budget Committee will hopefully discharge the function of the committee in approving our budget and our tax levy before it gets sent to our board for adoption on currently planned for June 5th. And again, thank you for your time, for your care, and I have no further comment.
Thank you very much, Matt. Seeing no other further comment, it is now 7:32 p.m. As there is no further business, the North Clackamas Budget Committee meeting is recessed until 6:30 p.m. on May 27th, 2020.